5 years ago, the Black Hero liberated the people from the tyrannical rule of the Acadia Empire, but the hero's identity remains a mystery to this day. In the present, Lux Acadia, the prince of the old Acadia Empire, is running after a cat that stole an old lady's purse. He ends up accidentally falling into the girls' bathing dormitory while chasing the cat, and is captured for being a peeping Tom by Crucifer. Lux is interrogated by Crucifer about his dual sword device, but before he can answer, Sheris interrupts. Crucifer, Sheris, and Tilfert take Lux to the headmaster's office, and on his way there, Lux realizes that he is at the Royal Drag Knight Academy. In the headmaster's office, Lux reveals the entire situation to the girls, including that he's a former prince, and the headmaster offers him a job at the academy. She explains that the academy is responsible for training the next generation of drag knights to protect the peace in the country. She tells Lux that the school mostly has female students, and that many male students have been left behind since the coup d'etat 5 years ago. However, their conversation is interrupted by Lisha Atismata, the current princess of the empire. She objects to Lux working there and calls him a perv. The headmaster allows her to punish Lux for his behavior earlier, and Lisha challenges him to a duel. The headmaster reveals that Lux won the prize in the Imperial Tournament and is known as the weakest undefeated. Lisha reveals that she is the princess of the New Kingdom and is ready to defeat the prince of the Old Kingdom. Before the fight, Lux meets his sister Irie, who reveals that they are the surviving members of the royal family and are considered criminals amongst the citizens. She warns Lux that the princess is strong and remains undefeated in this school. The fight begins and Lux awakens his drag ride Wyvern, but Lisha is not impressed and reveals her divine drag ride Tiamat. Irie explains that a divine drag ride is a rare ancient weapon and Wyvern is nothing compared to it. Tiamat fiercely attacks and overpowers Wyvern, and Lisha demands that Lux give up his Wyvern and use the other sword, but he refuses. Lisha then releases Tiamat's special equipment and fires it towards Wyvern. In frustration, she pins Wyvern to the ground. Irie reveals that Tiamat possesses a divine raiment, an ability exclusive to divine drag rides which allows her to control gravity. Lisha is overwhelmed after using Tiamat's divine raiment and loses control over Tiamat. In that moment, the barrier set by the academy is broken by a gargoyle-type abyss, a monster that only appears in the ancient ruins. All the teachers evacuate the students, but Lux engages in battle with the abyss. Unfortunately, his broken Wyvern is nowhere strong enough to defeat it. The abyss then attacks Lisha, but Lux shields her. He then asks her to stand on the ground and wait for his signal to shoot the abyss. Lux leaves himself open to create the perfect shot for Lisha, and she fires her ultimate attack, defeating the abyss. Lux then falls unconscious. In his dream, Lux hears a voice telling him that Wyvern will not cooperate with his Bahamut. He wakes up in agony and finds that Lisha has been nursing him. She shows him the crest of the former emperor and tells him not to reveal her secret. As the teacher introduces the new student, Lux, he searches for an empty seat and finds his childhood friend Filthy. After class, the girls eagerly introduce themselves, but Crucifer interrupts to take Lux to the headmaster. But her real intention was to save Lux from the crowd. After taking him to a cliff's edge, she asks Lux to find the Black Hero as she has some unattended business with him. In his dreams, Lux talks to his brother Fugo, who advises him to kill everyone. However, Lux wants to minimize casualties. Upon waking up, Lux is surprised to find himself in Filthy's bed. Tilfer announces this news to the whole academy during breakfast. Irie confronts Lux, but he tells her that he was sleeping in his own room and had no idea Filthy was her roommate. Lux then visits Lisha to fulfill her request, and she reveals that she has fixed his Wyvern, which will allow him to enroll in the Night Squadron. She takes Lux to town and then to a fancy restaurant, but they soon realize that she has forgotten her wallet. Lux buys a local delicacy and takes Lisha to the top of a tower with a stunning view. Lisha reveals that the mark on her belly symbolizes that she was once a prisoner of the former king, but her father chose the kingdom over her. She feels hopeless and never thinks she can become a worthy queen. Lux dreams of his brother again, who tells him that he does not have the caliber of the kings and is the weakest of them all. In the morning, Lux learns that a large abyss has appeared in the southwest ruins. Lisha and the Night Squadrons head out to the location. On the battlefield, Velvet Barth, the chief of the Acadia's Night Squadron, attacks Lisha and the others with multiple gargoyles. Crucifer and the others plan to retreat. At the academy, Lux is informed about the situation on the battlefield, causing him to rush to provide support. Irie tells him that he cannot win with the Wyvern and that he cannot use his other sword as well. Lux tells her that he won't fight and heads out. Velvet lands a fatal blow on Lisha, but Lux arrives and saves her. He tells her that he is a failure of a prince, but will help her to be recognized as a worthy queen fit to rule Atismata. With his wyvern destroyed, Luke draws his pitch-black sword and summons the Bahamut, the pitch-black divine drag ride. Velvet is shocked as he recognizes the drag ride and reveals that it is the Black Hero. Irie recalls that her brother destroyed the Empire and is the weakest drag knight. Velvet confronts Lux, but he cold-heartedly uses Bahamut's divine raiment reload on fire and instantly defeats him. Irie reveals that the Lux was the one who defeated 1,200 drag rides of the old Empire 5 years ago. The students of the Academy plan a surprise party for Lux, and as he arrives, they welcome him with open arms. The atmosphere is lively, and everyone is having a good time playing games and having fun. Suddenly, the headmaster hands Lux a red form, and she announces that whoever can take it from him in the next hour will have Lux to themselves for a week. However, if no one succeeds in taking the form, Lux will no longer have to obey anyone's orders. All the girls rush towards Lux as he runs away, trying to snatch the form from him. As he flees, Lux comes across Lisha, thinking she will let him hide with her. But to his surprise, she tries to take the form for herself. Lux manages to escape just in time. While running, he finds an empty room and decides to hide there. When he looks at the clock, he realizes that there are only 10 minutes left for the game to end. In a stroke of bad luck, Lux finds himself in a room where Tilfer, Crucifer, and some of the girls are changing. Lux realizes he has snuck into the girls' changing room, and Crucifer finds him while searching for her clothes. She keeps his presence a secret and later tricks him into giving her the form, making him act as her boyfriend for the whole week. Later, the headmaster calls Lux and Irie to show them the flute obtained from Velvet, which allowed him to control all of the Abyss. She asks Lux if the flute is a key to something. After returning to their dormitory, Irie warns Lux about Crucifer and tells him that she is hiding something. At lunch, Crucifer reveals that she came to the academy to find a noble man to marry. She asks Lux to act as her boyfriend to deceive her butler, who will arrive to check on her engagement status. Later that night, Lisha finds Crucifer and Lux doing their homework together, and in jealousy, she reveals that she and Lux have already held each other's hand. Crucifer teases Lisha and asks her if she ever has kissed anyone. The next day, Crucifer and Lux go shopping, holding hands and having fun. However, on their way back, they are attacked by an unknown party. Crucifer tells Lux to distract the enemy while she summons her drag ride. As Lux is about to be hit, Crucifer summons her divine drag ride Fafnir, shielding him. She uses Fafnir's divine raiment Wise Blood and kills the remaining attackers. Crucifer then reveals to Lux that Fafnir's divine raiment can see the future and target the enemy accordingly. Later at dinner, Crucifer introduces Lux to her butler as her boyfriend. However, Lord Balzarida arrives and calls Crucifer his future wife. She is annoyed by his behavior and reveals to Balzarida that she has a boyfriend. Balzarida gets enraged and challenges Lux to a duel, frustrated that Crucifer is already dating someone. Crucifer proposes a 2-on-2 duel and Balzarida accepts the challenge. At his mansion, Balzarida is currently plotting something devious with a shadowy figure. Meanwhile, at the school, Crucifer expresses her gratitude towards Lux for standing up for her and advises him to utilize her divine drag ride in the upcoming duel. In the meantime, Lisha discovers that Lux has only been pretending being Crucifer's boyfriend and offers to upgrade his drag ride for the fight. Seeing how exhausted Lux is, Filthy, Tilfer, and Lisha disguise themselves as maids to attend to his needs. In the imperial capital, all the nobles have gathered for an emergency meeting. The Atismata family exposes that numerous abyss lie dormant in different regions of the nation, and that Ragnarok Poseidon is attempting to awaken these abyss. The nobles come to the conclusion that they need to continue investigating the ancient ruins and find a more potent weapon hidden within them. Balzarida takes the responsibility on himself and tells the nobles he will investigate the ruins and fight Ragnarok. At the academy, the headmaster informs everyone of the forthcoming ruins exploration. She discloses that the actual goal of this investigation is to employ the flute as a key to unlock the deepest sections of the ruins. Lux encounters Crucifer at the briefing, and she declares that she will accompany him to the ruins to accomplish her objective. Before leaving for the ruins, the instructor introduces Balzarida as a companion to the group. Although the students are wary of him, Lisha is powerless to do anything about it. Upon arriving at the ruins, the squadron triumphs over a group of abyss, but things take a turn when a Diablos emerges. It possesses enough power to demolish an entire city. The knights engage in a fierce battle, and though they eventually defeat it with Balzarida's special equipment, the Diablos starts to self-destruct. Lux realizes that Fafnir is losing control and decides to rescue her. Subsequently, Crucifer and Lux find themselves stranded in the ruins alone. She suggests that they head towards the altar located in the ruins center. While en route, Lux inquires about the Black Hero and why she desires to meet him. She discloses that each drag ride has a limit, but this isn't the case for the Black Hero. Upon reaching the altar, she unlocks the ruins and unveils that she is the savior of the ruins and not a human from that world. Crucifer reveals to Lux that she was found by the Ainfolk family while they were exploring the ruins. She had no past memories or experiences and was adopted by the Ainfolk family. However, she was resented by her family and servants and soon realized she was adopted. She thought that by becoming a powerful drag knight, her family would accept her. But after getting a divine drag ride, her family grew more distant. She wanted to find more allies in the ruins, and that's why she was searching for them. Lux comforts her and tells her that she matters to him. Crucifer asks him why he is so gentle-hearted, and Lux reveals that his mother and sister were kicked out of the imperial court because of his grandfather's actions. After that, they lived on the streets and neither their family nor the people would help them. He resented everyone, but then he was saved by Filthy. He realized he didn't want to hate anyone but wanted to create a country where his family could live without hate. Their conversation is interrupted by Lisha, and they all return to the academy. Lux tells Irie that there was no progress made in the ruin and the flute was not a key to anything. The duel is upon them, and Crucifer goes to fight the duel alone. Balzarita stuns Alterizi with his power and knocks her unconscious. Crucifer is not able to gain the advantage against Balzarita as her foresight is unable to detect his moves. Balzarita knocks her to the ground and reveals that he was the one who sent those men to attack Lux and her. He also tells her that the only reason he wanted to go to the ruins was to gauge Fafnir's battle power. As he is about to land the final blow, Lux appears in his Bahamut. He uses Bahamut's divine raiment reload on fire, but is unable to land a strike. Lux realizes that Balzarita's divine drag ride can steal other divine raiments. Since he stole Fafnir's wise blood, he is able to counter reload on fire. He then attacks Lux and steals his divine raiment. Using reload on fire, Balzarita gains the upper hand, and Lux starts to lose control over Bahamut. Seeing this, Crucifer tells him to stop, but he states that he will fight for his friend. Lux uses his special move, Recoil Burst, and defeats Balzarita in one fatal strike. Irie reveals that Lux has found a way to push Bahamut to the point of Berserk and release all of its power in one strike. He takes Crucifer back to the academy where Alterizi reveals that after seeing his ability as a drag knight, the Ainfolk family has approved of their engagement. Lux is worried about Ragnarok and how to stop it while attending the academy. He learns that Celestia, one of the daughters of the Four Nobles, is coming back to the capital and is a capable drag knight. However, she hates men, which concerns Lux. Sheris and the others disguise Lux as a woman to meet her. While taking a stroll one night, Lux encounters a stalker who is eventually scared off by Celestia. Lux introduces himself as Luno, and Celestia takes a liking to him, expressing her desire to talk to him more in the future. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, a mysterious entity arrives and kills Balzarita before summoning multiple abysses with a flute. Back at the academy, Celestia meets with Lisha and insists that Lux should be kicked out of the academy because he is male and does not belong there. Lisha disagrees, stating that Lux has saved the academy multiple times. Lux interrupts and offers to help Celestia stop Ragnarok, but she remains in denial. The headmaster suggests settling the matter with a duel, and Celestia accepts. The duel will take place on Ries Island in 3 days. The Night Squadron is taken to Ries Island to train. After the training, Lux warns the squad about Celestia's strength. Crucifer reveals that Celestia is always bothered by something, and that she works hard. Lux then disguises himself and meets Celestia. Later, he is confronted by Sanya, who suspects Lux's true identity, but Crucifer saves him and warns him about Sanya's intentions. The next day, Lux goes out with Celestia, disguised as a girl. As they roam around town and have lunch together, Lux realizes that Celestia restrains herself from worldly pleasures, fearing that she may be scolded by her father and resented by her classmates if she is not qualified and strong enough to lead the Knights. Celestia reveals that she does not actually hate men, but is constantly pressured to appear strong and competent. The following day, Sanya approaches Celestia with a request not to allow Lux to attend swimming practice. Celestia confesses to Sanya that she does not hate men, but in fact admires strong men. However, she admits that she is not sure how to interact with younger men, given her background as the daughter of the Duke and the leader of the Knights. Sanya explains that as a woman in a position of power, she cannot rely on a man for support. As the swimming practice begins, Lux is stunned by the sight of all the girls in their swimsuits. However, his compliment to Lisha earns him a rebuke from her. Celestia arrives and reminds the students that they are there to train and not to have fun. She taunts Lux before leaving him in thought for the rest of the night. The next day, Celestia and Lux engage in a duel. As the duel begins, both opponents agree to the conditions and Celestia summons her divine drag ride Lindworm, while Lux summons his Wyvern. Meanwhile, Sheris and Tilfer confront Senya. who has recorded confidential information about the Academy and plans to frame Lux for it. She reveals her plan to kill all members present on the island and destroy the new empire. Back to our boy fighting the Booba. Suddenly, an abyss appears, interrupting their battle. Celestia insists that she will defeat the abyss alone and uses Lindworm's divine raiment divine gate to teleport around it and land a fatal blow. As Lux is losing control of his wyvern, he sees a mysterious figure playing a flute and thinks it is his older brother. Sania attacks Celestia, but Lux saves her. Sania reveals that Celestia is responsible for his grandfather's death. Celestia apologizes to Lux and reveals that she was the one who informed his grandfather about the Empire's corruption. The Imperial court imprisoned and killed him, and his family was thrown out of the palace. She confesses that after all this, Lux's grandfather told her that everything was fine and that it was not her fault. Lux reveals that he does not hate Celestia, and he shows her his black sword, accepting any punishment. He summons Bahamut and defeats Sania in an instant. He then launches an endless barrage of attacks on Ragnarok, and Irie explains that Lux has devised a skill that can launch limitless attacks. Lux defeats the Abyss, and the mysterious entity playing the flute reveals himself to be Hayes. He tells Lux that he will revive the nightmare from 5 years ago and leaves. Celestia patches up Lux and expresses frustration about Luno. She tells him that she revealed her embarrassing side to him. So in exchange, Lux will teach her how to interact with young men. Celestia then approves Lux's entry into the academy. In his dorm, Lux is unable to remember the nightmare from 5 years ago that Hayes told him about. Lux reminisces about his childhood memories with Filthy and decides to visit her to check on her. However, his plans take a surprising turn when Lisha contacts him with information about a new ability called Over Limit that can remove the limiters of drag rides but also carries a high risk of death. She advises Lux against using it. Soon, all the knights gather to explore the ancient ruins, which according to the scriptures have 11 underground floors. Irie assigns different teams to explore different floors, with Lux and Celestia assigned to investigate the 6th and 3rd floors, respectively. To everyone's surprise, Celestia appears to be enthusiastic about the task, and Irie reveals that this is because of Lux's influence. While on their way to the 6th floor, Noct notices something under the rubble and informs Lux. After clearing the debris, they discover an unconscious little girl who Crucifer identifies as Lacrushi, the supervisor of the ruins. She explains to Lux that most of the functions of the ruins are shut down, and she needs to confirm her identity and take command of the control room. However, Lux informs them that there is someone known as the Creator who has authority over her. Meanwhile, in the palace, it is discovered that Velvet has escaped from prison, and the nobles plan to make Lux work for them once he leaves the academy due to his success in conquering Ragnarok. As the knights reach the production area of the ruins, Filthy suddenly experiences a severe headache and warns them of an impending threat. Lux investigates and is attacked by a Diablos. He learns that the ruins release 3 abysses in a state of alert and requests the headmaster to suspend the investigation, but she refuses. Filthy rushes forward and Lux follows her. Along the way, Lux discovers a secret lab where the old Empire experimented on humans and sees flashes of his memories, but he is unable to recall anything specific. After defeating the Diablos, Lux finds Filthy exhausted in the lab. Suddenly, she starts to choke Lux, and the reason for her strange behavior remains unknown. As she attempts to kill Lux, she suddenly collapses, leaving him puzzled. Hayes appears and confesses to planting a seed of Ragnarok in Filthy. He explains that Filthy has been resisting Ragnarok's command to kill Lux, which would ultimately lead to her own demise. Hayes gives Lux 2 days to open the door to the deepest part of the ruins using Crucifer and save her. Before leaving, Hayes reveals that Lux's siblings all share the same hair color, leaving Lux in suspicion. Back in his dormitory, Lux cares for Filthy, who has no memory of recent events. He notices that one of her eyes resembles the Abyss and leaves in frustration. The headmaster informs Lux that Filthy was experimented on by the former Empire and was already dead when Lux saved her. She woke up stronger, but is now becoming an Abyss. The headmaster suggests that the cure for Filthy may lie in the deepest part of the ruins. The following day, Lisha repairs Bahamut and Fugal contacts Lux, revealing that the only way to save Filthy is to destroy the flute and kill Ragnarok. Lux visits Filthy and promises to save her this time. The Knight Squadron reaches the deepest part of the ruins with Crucifer's help. Inside, they encounter Hayes, who commands Filthy to kill all the knights. Lacrushi betrays the knights and joins in, using unarmed drag knights to overpower them. Lux realizes that all the wyverns are using Over Limit and Bahamut cannot keep up. Filthy uses her divine raiment to render the other raiments useless. As Hayes is about to execute his plan, Fugal intervenes. Irie summons Abyss using the flute, taking control of Filthy and releasing her from Hayes' command. Hyas summons Ragnarok, but all the knights attack it at once, only to discover its super regeneration. Lux uses his overtime and recalls his brother's words that he cannot protect anything in the future, but Filthy encourages him to fight for others, and Lux reveals the true form of Bahamut and defeats Ragnarok. Fubril acknowledges Lux's strength, but deems him a weak enemy for having to resort to overlimit. Lux wakes up in bed to find Filthy taking care of him. Following Lux's recovery, the knights throw a grand feast. The headmaster announces the upcoming Foundation Festival, and all the girls are excited to go on a date with Lux. To reward the 3 hardest working girls during training camp, the headmaster suggests they each get a date with Lux. Irie takes Lux on an errand where she reveals that nobles from neighboring countries will participate in the All-Dragon tournament, and Lux and the Knight Squadron will represent Etismata. Lux goes on his first date with Celicia, who wears a lovely dress. She tells him that everyone at the academy loves Lux but hates her. Lux reassures her that isn't the case. For his second date, Cruel Sifra and Lux dance together and share a kiss. Filthy takes Lux to a church for his third date, where she tells him to rest. Later, a mysterious woman named Kirihime Yuruka appears and introduces herself as a servant drag knight serving the previous empire. She addresses Lux as her master and reveals her desire to serve him. Later that night, Yuruka asks Lux about overthrowing the kingdom, but Lux denies any interest. Yuruka tries to attack Lux, but the Knight Squadron intervenes and stops her. Lisha contacts Lux, asking him to be her personal knight and help her memorize her speech for the Foundation Festival. She plans to make this announcement at the festival, but Lux has time to think about it. Meanwhile, Hayas, Senya, and Yuruka are seen plotting something in the ruins. Lux and Irie are summoned to the Imperial Court, where they are informed about the rebellion's plan to resurrect the previous emperor. The nobles want Lux to win the All-Dragon tournament to act as a decoy and lure the 100 Abyss toward them. Irie objects, but the nobles offer to lift all criminal charges against them if Lux is successful. Lux agrees despite Irie's concerns about his ability to use Bahamut for only 12 minutes. Yuruka has been keeping a close eye on Lux and reveals to him that she wants him to become the new king to overthrow the current throne. Lux declines her offer, and she warns him to be careful at the All-Dragon tournament. The tournament begins with the solo battles, and Lux uses his Wyvern to win his match. However, Tiamat starts attacking the spectators, and Lux realizes that Yoruka's divine raiment is responsible. He rushes to the location and finds Semia, who summons the Abyss. Lux acts as the decoy and brings the enemy to the Empire's forces. The girls decide not to burden Lux with Lisha's situation and figure out that Yoruka's divine raiment is the only one capable of controlling other drag rides. Lux hears an explosion and rushes to the battlefield, where he engages in a battle with Velvet and questions his approach to dealing with the situation. Velvet had the upper hand in the battle, boasting that the new Empire and Lux had fallen into their trap and time was running out until Lux was unable to use Bahamut. He sliced the arm of Lux's drag ride, only to realize that the drag ride wasn't Bahamut. Lux revealed that he had asked Lisha to build Bahamut armor for Wyvern. He then drew his black sword and summoned Bahamut. Meanwhile, Lisha was imprisoned in a cell where Sanya showed her the destructive power of the giant. In one fell swoop, the giant annihilated the forces of Etismata. Sanya demanded that Lisha hand over the country to Hayes and put an end to the meaningless bloodshed. Lisha refused to give Hayes the country, and Sanya and her men were about to assault her. But just in time, Bahamut arrived and saved Lisha. Lisha confessed her inability to save her country, but Lux reminded her that she was not at fault. Instead, Hayes was responsible. He told her that in order to save the country from this great disaster, he needed her help. Hearing this, Lisha got motivated and decided to fight alongside Lux. All of the knights launched a barrage of attacks on the giant, and Lisha used the Tiamat divine raiment to pin it to the ground, but her strength wasn't enough. Seeing this, Bahamut used Reload on fire and strengthened the gravitational field created by Tiamat. Filthy and Cruel Sifra landed the final blow that restricted the giant's movement. Haya saw that he was backed into a corner, and he decided to show off his divine drag ride Nidhogg. He engaged in a fierce battle with Lisha, while Yuruka fought with Lux. She revealed that her brother wasn't killed by the Old Empire, but by his own people. Before his death, she was accepted as a subordinate in the Old Empire. As the fight wore on, Yuruka saw her younger brother in Lux. Lux defeated her and revealed that he had been fighting for Acadia but failed to save it. Yuruka realized that the only way Lux could have saved Acadia was to destroy it. He then rushed to save Lisha. Hayes ordered Lacrush to self-destruct the giant and destroy the capital. However, his plan was in ruins because of Yuruka. He then planned to destroy the capital himself, but before he could accomplish it, he was defeated by Lux and Lisha. After everything had settled, Lisha got ready to give her speech at the Foundation Festival. She revealed Lux Acadia as her personal knight. After all the formalities were over, all of the girls rushed to Lux's side. each of them trying to get close to him. After a few days, Luke starts dating all the girls in the school and ends up sleeping with all of them, making his dream of becoming a harem king a reality. The end. Be sure to subscribe for more amazing recaps. By the way, about Harem King part, it was a joke. Thanks for watching.